G'day, welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute, joined today by Space Tomato and Algrid. Hey, boys, doing? Oh, he's feeding his face. He's in a good mood. Right, we've got Crusader and Tumbril. We are more than halfway through the sale now. We are getting on to the meaty end of the stick. We've just gone past the Guardian MX and the Starfarer. I was going to say Starlancer. Oh, it is Starlancer. I was going to call it a Starfarer attack.
Yeah, they just released a Starfarer, dude.
Whoa, right, Starlancer
Really
attack. We haven't done a buyer's guide on the attack yet, but we'll probably get around to that after Invictus because there's just too much going on at the moment. And that was the one that I was personally least interested in, as you can probably tell from the review when I get around to it. But I might even see if I can grab Essay for that one because I know he's not a big fan either. So yeah. All right, with that then, let's cut it over the browser. And this is going to be... Oh, I hit the wrong button, of course. My bad. And I just realized...
I'm gone.
Yeah, I just realized...
Where'd I go?
I didn't set this up beforehand.
You're magical.
Yeah, my bad. And my camera is... Man, everything is all going all right today. There we go, but I can do it on the fly. I'm pretty easy. Right. Okay. As I said, Crusader. Right, so this is not going to be all of them, obviously, because it's just the military ones. So there's not as many ships as you would think. But the A1, hard pill to swallow at $200, I think, personally. Especially now we've got $55 bomb racks in. Yeah, I think that's going to really sour the well a little bit on the Spirit A1. But I guess it's still got the advantage of having more bombs and they're bigger than the other ones. But yeah, $200 is, what, $75 over the base C1.
So I was going to ask, what's the base C1? Because yeah, that's a lot.
It's a lot. Well, it's almost, well, if it was $100, it'd be double, wouldn't it? So it's, yeah, it's kind of crazy. Yeah. But yeah, I can't really get behind this one. I do see a few people that have it in game, but obviously it's for a niche amount of people. I could see people picking it up as they wait for something else to come out. But yeah, I don't know.
It makes way more sense than the A2, but like, yeah, there's not really much to do in terms of bombing in this game right now, and you can buy it for later, but we don't really know what they're going to make for that kind of gameplay as well.
Yeah. You're kind of waiting for base building to come in. I think that's where it'll start to take off, personally.
Architect.
Once bases are being built, that's generally where you'll see it.
Should I buy one and call it the Morphologist? No.
Well, it's not an A2.
No, but meaning because he's the architect reviews and he just goes around bobs the shit out of people. I mean, really funny. But anyway, right.
If it had naming tech, yeah, that'd be great.
Well, it's coming eventually. They did actually say recently that it's coming for everything. So yeah, but true. Right. Yeah. So not the best one to kind of start off with, but that will be a recurring theme here. A2, the bigger, uglier brother.
Right.
But yeah, I've kind of got him behind Agrit's head a little bit here, so I'll try and go down so we can see the price a bit more. But yeah, $750 is crazy town. You know, you're in the Polaris end of town. They were the same price for a little while, but obviously the A2 was out. But yeah, I just so crazy to me. And the pricing game, they actually had to, like, this is the problem that I've had with these, is because of the pricing that the marketing have set things at, they've had to reset the prices in game because of blowback. So now we've actually got marketing infecting the price of what designers wanted things to be in game. And I never agree with that. I'm a huge non-fan of that, because marketing should never be dictating what the design of a game should be. And that's always worried me.
What that does is that it actually screws up the balancing, because they're looking at the pricing in game for it along with balancing, and so you've now got ships that are fairly useless.
Well, back in the day, there was about $1 million difference between Alpha UEC. So in my book, they probably should have been only $50 difference in price, all three of them. And that makes sense if you're thinking about variants. There shouldn't really be that much change between the three of them.
So you end up with ships that are fairly useless being jacked up high with their price, and then balance being thrown out. So to me, it just sucks as well. But yeah,
this ship was kind of a meme for a while, because you really, the only thing to do with it was just ruin everybody else's day. Dropping a massive bomb. It's really cool. The bombs are cool. It's pretty sick. It's a cool feature, but again, you don't have much reason for it. They didn't build the content for it, even though they made the ship. So now you kind of don't know what the content is going to be. And on top of that, like there's the M2. There's other ships that can also carry a bunch of stuff and don't necessarily need a bomb. I don't know, man. I don't feel like there's any reason to spend $750 on this.
Not anymore. I think I completely agree with what you said there, because this was all before the other ships came along too. You know, there's a lot of other ships like the Liberator, and even the one coming this sale, the Asgard, that are so much cheaper than this. It's ridiculous. So,
well, certainly than any of the C series, or any of the Herc series is
you know what would be the death? Sorry, go ahead, Al.
I was going to say, but just before you mentioned it, the Liberator does basically the same job. And it's $200 cheaper than that.
Yeah, almost what is it, $575? So yeah, in that ballpark.
And then you've now got the Asgard, but again does a similar job.
It'll fit somebody's niche.
I think the Asgard's going to be very expensive too. We'll talk about that not tomorrow, but the next day. But because that'll be Anvil Day then. So yeah. All right. Yeah. So avoid those first two. Now, I would say when this first came out, we gave it a lot of shit. Now there's a lot more heavy fighters out. This does look better than other heavy fighters, but the price is still insane. Right. And I think that's a recurring theme here with a lot of the military ships from Crusader. They are just way too expensive for what they are.
Well, my question with this would be, has it gotten better at killing capital ships while still feeling balanced?
I think we're not going to really see that until armor comes in. I've always, from my perspective, Algrid, feel free to disagree with me here. I've always considered this one as the armor stripper, like it goes up close and just shreds the armor, because we know for a fact that a lot of guns can't get through armor, but if this thing removes the armor, it opens it up so other things can shoot it. So this is the close range one, because this itself also has armor, where this is a sit back and snipe ship. So they both approach stuffing up capitals from a different perspective, up close and personal and long distance, essentially. Yeah, but no, not right now. To answer your question, no, not right now.
Yeah, I assume it will have good. Like, I can say I would expect better content for this in the future than something like an A1 or an A2, but it's still sort of like, where is this going to fit in?
Yeah. Well, again,
more exciting concept than those though.
Like the Guardian MX that's dropped, right? Right now, the Guardian MX is meant to go in and like brawl like a normal fighter type of thing, but these are designed for very specific roles. So I just think they're going to have more of a better function, like at least their niche, and they kind of fit. Because again, you try and take, say, something like just a Hornet and fight a Guardian MX, they're just not going to win. But what they allow you to do. And ironic, I kind of am agreeing more and more with what Algrid said about the Guardian MX. Is it's essentially a Connie. It even kind of flies a bit like a Connie. Slow and sluggish. And you don't want that when you're fighting other fighters. At least if I took the Connie in, I've got more armor and weight to throw around. But you don't have that with the Guardian.
Should have been... Well, the MX should have been more focused on large ship counter combat than.
Well, it kind of is, but what I'm saying is it's essentially a smaller target to fight other. Say you were fighting a Connie, right? I'd still expect it to come out on top because it's slightly more maneuverable than the Connie, but you don't get all the extra stuff on a Connie, like the bigger ship, the cargo bay, and all that type of thing, and it costs more. It's just, like, how do you add that all up? Like, it's
costs more than a Connie. Wow.
Well, this is the crazy thing, right? Right now, the Paladin is not out, right? So the Paladin costs $300, right? So essentially, if you have a Guardian MX and you don't like it, I'm hoping on Anvil Day, as an example, and I'm pretty sure they will. There isn't a CC right now because obviously the Guardian MX just came out, but you should technically be able to spend $10 and get a Paladin. That is crazy to me. That there's a $10 difference between one heavy fighter and a heavy gunship. That is ridiculous. It holds 4 people. And anyway.
Yeah. That's probably my big...
It all goes to back... Sorry.
The problem I have with the Infernos of the Ares Inferno and the Iron is the fact that they are size 7 and don't really, from memory, they don't have any close quarters weapons. They've just got the big size 7 gun.
Yeah. Well,
now,
that is close.
Means, for me,
that is close range, but it's only for a really big ship. Yeah.
For me, that says they're both sniper ships. So both ships are standing back, but you don't want to get up close into. You don't want to get in a dogfight. You don't want to be. You don't want to.
That's not how they were. That's not how they were sold. The Ares Inferno is to go up really close and strip armor off, and the Ion is to sit back and snipe. They're both sold in that way. I don't think you'll be sitting back using a change gun at that distance. I just don't see it.
You wouldn't want to, but to me, that size 7s just don't. They're not really ships. They're
the opposite of what all the other fighters. They are designed to literally fight capital ships, so therefore they're weak to the thing that every other heavy fighter is strong against. So it's a strange combo, but
but to me, to me, they just don't work.
Right, that's it. Back around to the other side. The Tumbril. So this kind of goes back onto what you were saying.
Wait, we didn't even touch on the C1.
Is that C1? Did I?
Yeah.
Shit,
you just gotta skip the best ship in the game.
Did I really miss? Oh shit! No, there are others here. God, I am half asleep. Terrible me. Right, the C1. I really like this thing. I actually went out and brought one. I like it that much.
Love the C1. Big C1 stand here.
It's just really nice and fast. It's obviously got some drawbacks because it's like a flying pancake, but it's just really quick. I use it as my kind of A to B ship. It's the ship I fly around most in the verse at the moment. Yeah, like whenever you see me on a stream or something, this will be the thing that I'm using.
Yeah.
I've got to admit, the thing I hate about Crusader ships is that endless corridor, corridor after corridor after corridor to get to the bridge.
It's pretty missed.
The one though, it is frustrating and messy, but the C1 for me was the ship that actually made that feel like it made sense, because that corridor was where all the components were, and so.
Well, once the Zeus came out, it made me appreciate this even more.
Which is funny because everybody was saying this is going to kill the C1. The Zeus was going to kill the C1 when it came out.
Yeah, and it's actually when I went back and brought this one, because I just found the Zeus. The Zeus is a really nice ship. It's really well designed. It's really functional. But I just hated how pokey it was. It just drove me nuts.
You just hate the fact that it's claustrophobic, which is the thing that Ben actually wanted to push more of. He wanted it even more pokey.
Well, you can't,
because he was trying to go for that traditional spaceship feel, like the old feel.
Well, it's also designed for another person on top of this, and you can't even work past each other in the doorways. I always found that really strange, that it was just designed with this awkwardness in mind, and that sounds like a really bad oversight to me.
Isn't that interesting? Because it sounds like it's not being designed anymore for NPCs.
Yeah,
because we know that was a reason why earlier ships were so large.
Yeah. Well,
the Phoenix was so big.
Yeah, we always end up comparing this to other things. We talked more about the Zeus than we did about the Spirit, but yeah. Look, I can really get behind that one, especially if you're like, you've only got one ship in the game, and that'd be a safe place to stop and not go any further in my book.
Look, I will always stand up for the C1. I'm really glad that it held its own against the Zeus, because this is the most beautiful ship in the game to me. I don't know if it'll always be my favorite, but it currently is. It's just fantastic, whether you have one person or two, whether you have cargo or vehicles, whether you're doing combat or transportation, investigations, like just getting around in a ship. This thing's really good because you got.
Do you have one? Do you have one?
Oh yeah, yeah. This is the only thing that keeps me from flying this is its defensive capabilities. One, I would love if it had a turret. I think that an M1 would be an incredible ship to have like a defensive turret, better shields, and the same exact layout as this. But two, it just needs to update the components, get better shields on it, and it'd be more safe.
Even if they could somehow make when you say an M1, but it carries like a medium vehicle. You know what I mean? Like that.
Make the cargo base smaller.
Yeah, I don't know how.
In there.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. I gotta ask you, do you have the Solstice skin for your C1?
I don't know which one that is. Is that the red and white one?
We'll talk after the show. I'll get you one.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, I'll get you one. Right. The C2 Hercules. If you are gonna get a Hercules, this would be my second choice. I think the M2 is where it's at. I don't know if you two gentlemen agree with that. but the M2 is really what it was really designed around. And if you're going for that, you know, obviously well, this is going to be the very next ship, so we can actually compare them. But you know, you're talking an extra $120, so it is a fair bit of extra money. It's almost a whole Spirit extra, which is kind of crazy. I just think that this one, if this one's designed for cargo, there are better cargo ships, but the armored drop ships that drop 2 vehicles, there's not anything else that does that except the Liberator. You know,
and the Liberator, as we've always said, it's
not really for that. It's too clunky. It's way too big of a target.
Well, I do think this has a good fit as a cargo ship because it fits in that window. I think it's like 500 something, maybe 500 to 700 SU. I don't remember how much it is. But
so what if I more than almost triple the cargo and added $50?
But you don't really want to triple the cargo, right?
No.
How many people want to?
So that's called an ironclad, and the ironclad can technically hold 6 tanks.
I would be surprised if the ironclad's going to be a good ship to cargo run the same routes this would. I think the VTOL on this ship is going to really help it stand out in its class.
I absolutely agree with you on that. And I think that's where me and Agard have talked about this a little bit. I think that's where it's going to come back into favor again, is when the actual in-atmosphere flight model comes in. I absolutely agree on that statement.
That's where Crusader ships are going to shine, I think. That's going to be their forte.
Also, you could also look at the Caterpillar, because the Caterpillar is 330, and they carry the M2 and carries less than the Caterpillar, and the C2 carries more than the Caterpillar. But again, it comes back to what you just said. It's going to be those VTOLs that set it apart.
And is the ironclad really only $50 more than this?
Yeah, not joking. And the Ironclad Assault, I think, is God. I'd have to look up the price again. It's one of those prices I didn't take to memory. But the Ironclad Assault's like, I think it's $50 more again.
Dude.
And it literally does. Well, this kind of what kills the M2. You see, because look, I'll do it real quick. Look, we'll do it off the cuff, right? Just because, you know, for thoroughness. Star Citizen Wiki Ironclad, and it'll be this one. And I'll have the price right here under pledge. Yeah, $535. So you're talking $15 over the M2, and it literally carries 6 tanks. Oh, and it's got the fabrication facilities to repair them.
This starts to see. This is, I think this is the interesting conversation that comes up when people talk about how if you should be able to solo a ship or not. Because what's the deterrent from doing exactly what you're saying, spending $50 to get a much bigger ship if there's no bad downside to having a big ship?
Well, clearly that is the difference, because an Ironclad is between 1 to 6, and this is literally from memory is 3 Agrid, isn't it? Because you got the gunner seat on this. So this is basically designed for 3. So you do have less people required for this one, in short. But man, like $15, come on, seriously, much better value. And this is kind of what we've been talking about, is when because when this came out, like, and Agard will tell you, I argued for an hour and a half with Sea the Sixth and Astropub. I said, this is the first ship in its class, there is no way that this is S tier. And literally within 12 months the Liberator was announced, and you've both seen their scores. I've talked to Sarah off camera, I still do, but yeah, over the years it's fallen out of favor of both of them. Yeah.
But you guys, I believe it was you guys were just talking about the Liberator on Captain's Table about how it's not really necessary anymore, right?
Yeah, that's one of the things. But the point I'm trying to get at is this ship was priced like it's sexy and cool, really highly priced, but they haven't delivered, because as other things have come along, they've essentially been trod on. Liberator, the Ironclads and stuff like that. And my whole point was on that first day, and Agrid will tell you, I sat there and I said, this will not be the first ship you can see that carries vehicles. You'll see other ones come and they'll tread on it more and more and more, to the point that these will be the worst. Because the other thing that Agrid and I talked about way back in the beginning was, if you're going to sell ships, how would you sell them? You would sell them from worst to best.
Mm-hmm.
Because that encourages more sales. And that is exactly what happens every single time. If you bring out you'd have to go look at a ship, right? But they generally be out a base variant. Like a really good example.
I mean, that's their model now.
Yeah, really good.
That's all they're doing this year.
Yeah, really good example is the MTC, right? They just released the MTC. Now we're pretty sure that there was an MTX in the files, right? But the MTX looks like it'll be the better variant because it's more unique, right? And it's probably going to do something with missiles or something like that. You know, generally you get something like the starter ship. So we had the Intrepid, we had the Pisces, we had the Cutter, and then the following year or years later, you get the variants, which are way more interesting.
Okay, so what you're telling me is power creep is inevitable. Do you think they can counteract that? Do you think that they can make these ships useful enough to get their value back?
I think you'd find a lot of people have been jumping ship. I think the upgrade system is probably been the real big saving craze of a lot of people getting mad. You know,
so
I'd agree.
Yeah,
that doesn't answer my question though.
Oh, sorry.
Do you think that they can make these worthwhile for the people who bought them, compared to the newer ships that are better, like you were saying?
Well, I think based on what X was just saying, the upgrades do give those people a way out. So the thing is, most people, I think, who bought them are offloading them. They're not keeping them. They're upgrading to another ship.
I think it's
and then the question is, what about for those people who keep them? And
that exactly.
Yeah. Look, they know the biggest factor.
The question, isn't it?
The biggest factor of people purchasing ships, when we talked to Ben and John, was how they look, and that really surprised me. Like I always thought it would be because I never ever buy anything on how they look. Like, and I was talking to people earlier this week, and I was saying, when has one of those kind of adverts that's, so you know how they did the advert on the MTX or the behind the ships, right?
Yeah.
Has any one of those videos ever influenced you on purchasing something? And every single person, there was about 10 people in the channel, and then there was other people I've talked to this week that they all said no. Right? I've never been swayed by anything like one of those ads. They just look so cringy. I go out and I research and I look at the specs and I compare it to other ships, and that's what everyone does.
I think you're in a minority.
Well, you tell me, how do you go about? How do you decide? Well, again, I just asked you. Do you go out and actually look at what they do, or you just go, yeah, want that one?
I don't buy ships, man. I do.
No,
I don't care.
Okay, why did you buy the Spirit?
Yeah.
How did you come to a conclusion?
That was actually so I upgraded that from a ship somebody gifted me, and I think they gifted me a Gladius, and that was like a $5 upgrade or something like that. So I got it because I don't want a single seat fighter.
Would have been 20, but yeah, I get you at the time.
Yeah. But so I mean, I'll tell you why I get ships, and yes, it's vibes. Like, I want to start a series that covers ships based on vibes rather than stats, because I agree. I think that's why most people would do it when it comes to the decision of a Cutlass Black versus a C1 Spirit. A lot of that decision is going to come down to how those ships look.
I would love to do that with you, because I would struggle like my friend. I would struggle so bad. I'd be like, because I'd have to turn off all the shit I've learned. But it would be a good exercise for me. But
but I do think a lot of. I'm sorry.
I do both. I look at a ship, and these days I look at a ship, and the hard thing for me is I like all the ships. I like the look of all of them.
Yeah.
Some appeal to me more than others, like the Crusader ships. I used to think I'd love, because of the look, but I hate them. I actually hate using them.
Yeah, the lore has really killed that for you.
Oh no, even just being in the ships, I hate the never-ending corridor. It's for me that kills the ships.
You're gonna love it.
Them.
Well, this one
love it when we get life support.
I also killed this one for our grid, because once you've seen this one on stilts, you can't unsee it. And I killed that for our grid.
You did. Bastard.
That said, I think it's not a terrible ship. With the other ships around it, like the Corsair, the Andromeda and stuff like that, it's not too bad, and it's dual function. A lot of them don't really have that. Well, technically it's triple function, attacking, cargo, and data running, where the others seem to be attacking and cargo.
If that downstairs crawlway had more use than just being a crawlway to be a niche thing for running around the ship.
Yeah.
Like if it was a heat sink where they could store heat temporarily, a bit like the
The Terrapin. Yep.
Right? If you could kind of lock the ship up and store the heat in there and then expel it in a single burst.
Yep.
That being on stilts would redeem that ship massively.
Yeah.
That's a really cool idea.
But the fact that, if that area was where you walked through to get to the different components around the ship, so it was an engineering conduit rather than just a useless.
Well, there's a lot of empty space in there, isn't there, Agrid? There's a guy that did a series of schematics of ships, like side cutaways, and if you look at this thing's side cutaway, there is so much extra space around it, it's ridiculous. So unlike ships like the Idris, where they've packed it absolutely in and fit something in every single space, it's just put it this way, this was designed as a medium ship that has now grown in size to be, like, if you go look at the original Mercury in stats, there's actually a picture out that actually shows it next to I think it's the C2 or something like that.
Oh yeah, it shows it next to the C2, yeah.
And it's so tiny, and then you go put them in like Hanger Link or something like that, and they're almost the same size.
Yeah, and I get why the tunnels got bigger, because originally they were supposed to be crawl spaces, so you'd be on your belly crawling through type stuff.
Yeah.
Now that got changed simply for the fact of navigating, because when you're crouching, you're vertical as opposed to horizontal, and that means it's easier to traverse and not get caught up on geometry and all the rest of it. So I get the change, but that change also makes the ship bigger. But there's so much wasted space. Put the components in there, spread them around, use it as some other thing to absorb, be a heat sink so you can absorb the heat and then expel it, so it gives it more stealth or limited stealth. That would at least give that purpose, but it's a nothing.
I just realized they're selling all the Cyclones except the default. I don't know why, but they are. So there's no Cyclone. It's Cyclone AA, Cyclone MT, Cyclone RN, Cyclone TR, but there's no Cyclone, and I've just double checked either side. That's bizarre.
Can I say something about the Mercury?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I can go back. I thought I was just. Yep. Go ahead.
This ship, going back to the C1, a lot of the reason I bought the C1 is because of this ship, and I think that's true for quite a few people.
I'd agree.
You said, this ship used to be smaller, and even though data running wasn't in the game, this was a really good ship for moving vehicles and people and cargo, because the vehicle bay on this is perfectly sized, and I feel like they have the potential to have one of the best selling general purpose ships in the game with the Mercury. I like the size that this is, and the looks it has, and the capabilities it has. This could be an exploration ship. It could be a cargo hauler, vehicle hauler. You could run this for mercenary missions, ship combat. It's such a good ship. It's just they got to do a rework to get it to fit better in its case.
Everything you're saying, I totally agree with. Like variants almost like the Connie's got, right? That's what you're implying, I'm assuming. Yep. Okay. Yeah. He's nodding for those that are listening. And I'd also then carry that onto the Corsair. Believe it or not. I think they both need a couple of variants, or even just one variant would be enough.
Oh, wait, no. I'm sorry. I'm not even saying it needs a variant. I'm saying it fits it all.
Yep.
It can do all of that stuff already, right? This is a jack of all trades kind of ship. Just it's meant for data running too.
Well, let me just throw it out there, right? So imagine, this is just me absolutely spitballing. Imagine you rip the data runner part of it out and get more cargo. You push the cargo bay forward into that computer area, and it gets all that extra cargo. That already would be an appealing variant. So you start to think about all the other things that you could do. What if you actually made a bomber variant? You see where I'm going. Go back and look at all their other ships. What if you all of a sudden made one, again, if you get that bigger cargo area, you can actually carry 2 rovers, not 1. You start seeing where I'm going with this, right? You can actually start to, so you could actually make an M1 or an M2. Well, there already is an M2, so it'd have to be an M1. But what if there was an M1 and all of a sudden it carried 2 military medium vehicles or whatever? You can see where I'm going, right?
Could work.
The point I'm trying to get at is this, as you said, this is a really great base. They've just got to make some of those fixes, like it needs another entrance. And the components need to be spread a bit further around the ship. But that's something you and I talked about, Agrid. That crawl space, some of the components need to be down in the crawl space. It's ridiculous. Why the hell have a crawl space and there's no reason for it to exist? It's this whole maze down there for nothing.
Like but then you're also giving MSR owners more tedium to engineering than other people, so there's got to be some benefit to them being down there too.
Yeah, no, the benefit of being spread out is you can't just toss a grenade in and blow up the whole.
Yeah, the whole room. You know, what if someone
or when you're targeting systems from outside, you can't just hit one area and take them all out.
Not even that. You just chuck a Molotov cocktail, because eventually there'll be some kind of fire grenade. You put a fire grenade in that room, and it just makes it impossible for them to get in there and stop those components, because you'd have to have the fire extinguisher to put it out. So they've actually got to deal with you, get past you, get back in there, and by then, how much damage would have been done? And it's all in one room. It's a massive oversight. Where if it's spread out through those areas, at least you can't just walk into one area. Think about the Jeffries Tube gameplay from every Star Trek episode you've ever seen of them trying to repair stuff. And that ship fills that fantasy for so many people. I'm in the Jeffries Tube repairing.
Yeah. Like even if it's the cables or the tubes are running through those corridors and you have to go down and repair.
Yeah.
But those things, if that's where your relays are, if that's where your fuses are, if that's where your components are, if they're spread around, it gives your engineer places to go and double check. It gives you greater survivability because they're spread out, so it's harder to knock components out. But at the moment, those tubes, those crawl spaces do nothing. They're just a gimmick.
Yeah.
And that's
and I think
problem with that ship.
Well, one of the funniest things about them was when the ship first came out and people were like, oh, everyone's going to know that these are here. There's no point in having them in the ship. But I bet you a lot of the people watching this don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah. Maybe not this channel, because they're a bit more hardcore than your regular viewers. We actually do talk about that time to time. This channel is more very veteran based, like the people that have been here for a really long time. And then someone like yourself is more of an onboarder. So that's why you have a lot of influx of people coming in, because you're bringing lots of new people in. We don't sit there and usher new people in like you do. You're this guy.
But there are people who've been here for like 6 years who don't know what the Gladiator is, right? There's too many ships. There's just too many ships to know everything about it.
I don't know. I've never really tested that. Like, as I said, most people that make it to us are fairly well informed, and they've heard about us from word of mouth. So we're a different kettle of fish than most channels. Yeah.
Comment down below.
Yeah, let us know. How did you find Inforunners? And let us know if you know about the Gladius and the MSR being on stilts, essentially.
The Gladiator.
The Gladiator, sorry, my bad. Yeah.
Well, I should know about the Gladiator because I freak it all the time.
Yeah, he does.
It's one of my favourite ships.
Yeah. Right, so the Cyclones, we'll come back to this. But yeah, basically, I can't really recommend any of the Cyclones except one, right? And I think it's a future gameplay thing, and that's the RN. I think the RN will be really good at finding things, the speed and finding thing, the scout nature of it. I think it'll be really good. But that said, at $65, it's an earning game. But yeah, I don't know about you guys. Is there any of the variants of the Cyclone that you like? And at the price point, again, I just can't get behind them when it's more expensive than a starting base package. But yeah, Hagrid, would you agree with that?
I can't really get behind the AA because it's just a couple of missiles, and once they're done, they're done. And I think there are better vehicles that do the AA aspect anyway.
Yep.
The next one, I can't remember what it is because again, it's just a vehicle.
Yep.
But the RM with its scanners, that one does.
I can just go over them real quickly for people that are watching. So yeah, this is just a missile variant. This is a couple of missiles and the turret. This came later and it kind of squished to the variants. This is just the gun variant on its own.
Yep.
And then the RN is it's almost like the scanner of the Terrapin.
Yeah. And that scanner, I think, does two things. It will enable you to search for things, but B, I can see this being the type of ship that you'd use to scan, target an item, and then have your bomber come in and hit it.
Yeah. It which is, once the ground warfare stuff comes in, this will be the most valuable variant. Dropping this off and having the two guys go out and scout will be huge. It'll and that speed to get in and out of danger. You'll probably have one guy that's doing the scanning and literally trying to get the signature down to dodge people. I think I think that'll be a really fun little ship. And get out of here, they're coming for us. Like I think that'll be a lot of fun in that thing. But again, at the price, I can't really recommend any of them being ground vehicles. It's the same. It's kind of like we were talking a bit about the show. We were talking a little bit about the Blade controversy, but it's essentially the same. Like vehicles are just in another class of their own, and they're just not worth buying because they're so egregiously overpriced. And it was the blades and all that are just another step on top of that. Anyway.
I like the MT. I do think the MT is a pretty good ground vehicle. I wouldn't buy it, but I think that's my favorite model.
It's probably the best all around. It's probably the best all around from because it takes two of them and combines them. Yeah.
The RN I agree on. I think that they have a really good chance to do the whole data transfer thing where you can send targets to other people.
Yep. Agreed.
And if they give us the ability to, like Al said, basically have a torpedo that you target outside of your range, but because somebody else is in range with their scanner, you can see them. That would make a vehicle like this super, super valuable. I hope they do that.
And the small, the small space of that vehicle makes it harder to see and target and stuff.
Well, they've talked about being like below radar and stuff like that when you're on the surface and that. So again, we'll have to wait and see if that actually eventuates, but that could be really cool. Like when you're really low to the terrain, you're essentially hidden because of the terrain. That could be really, really interesting.
I have watched things where people have had the ground crews in cyclones and things being chased by the bigger ships, and they'd use the terrain to hide. And they would hide, and then they'd come out and they'd pepper the ships that were hunting them and disappear again. And it was the cyclones that would tend to live. But you look at the tracker, like it's got the turret gunner, whoopie-doo. You put that up against, say, the Grey Cat MX or MTC. Enclosed cab versus open cab, two people, turret, but suit locker and ground weapons. Like
you're paying for speed, aren't you? Though with this thing, that's its perk.
But the MTC is cheaper.
By $10. Yeah. No, sorry, $15 actually. Yeah. There's only really like of the ones that are sale for today. These are the only two that I'd even contemplate because this essentially takes the turret version and the AA version and melds them together. You don't get as many missiles.
That's what should have come out.
Yeah, you don't get as many missiles, but you just get a much better system. Yeah, well, it was like an afterthought. You can tell, but this should have just been like they should have essentially just folded that into this version and essentially just given everyone that has this for free. Yeah, that's how I would have dealt with it. Yeah. Right, moving on to the Nova. We do have that new weapon upgrade kit that also turns this into a ballistic Gatling, which will eventually come to the game for free, which is what I'd be highly recommending people do or earn it in game. But that does make this more appealing, knowing that you can essentially turn this into an infantry mowing down device, or essentially what I'm hoping is also use it as like an AA platform.
I was about to say, it becomes your AA platform.
Yeah, so it really makes this a lot more versatile, especially if you're running, 3 or 4 tanks together. Just having one of them with a ballistic cannon, I think, is going to be really normal. And I wonder if this is going to be a continuing trend. Them now going back and adding vehicles, like they've done it to the Scorpius turret, they've done it to the Nova tank. How many vehicles are they going to do this to? And that's really cool. Added value to what you've already purchased. I really like that idea. I really, really like that idea. Selling them, not so much, but adding value to what you've already purchased, absolutely.
Well, I like the idea of it gives you an upgrade path.
Yeah.
In terms of your gameplay for that
progression.
And that's the type of thing you want. It's the stuff you want to be able to generally earn or buy in game.
Yeah.
But
I like the idea of customization and player choice.
Yeah.
I don't like the feeling that it feels like an afterthought, that it feels like something that they've added on now after they've spent a decade making all these ships that are very specialized. And I do wonder how far they're going to push it. Again, I love choice, but if you've built a game to be a certain way and then you eventually you're like, ooh, let's add this instead, I worry about how that might shift the game that you've been building all this time.
You're worrying about them treading on each other.
Yeah, I mean, if it starts to go too far, I'm not saying that it can't work out, but like, what if it gets to the point where you can put like a tractor beam on a gladiator instead of its turret? And maybe that should be a possibility. But again, my whole point is, did they build the Gladiator and the Tractor Beam and all the Gladiator's competitors with that thought in mind?
It's a different. I actually think they've done this Scorpius and the Ballistic Gatling as a test, because it's almost like the old buck system for the Vanguard that they didn't do because they realized they could sell you the whole variant and make more money. Because I'm surprised they didn't call it the Nova Shitstorm and sell it as a whole new Nova tank, right? Like,
yeah. I mean, they could have just done a variant.
Yeah,
but
maybe sell it at $100 or something instead of 120 or whatever.
But then I'm thinking, what if they add a new component to the Scorpius, where instead of missiles or a turret, it adds like a really powerful scanner, like the Terrapins level of a scanner. Yeah. And that's really cool. But then I'm thinking, okay, well, did you plan for what that might mean for the Terrapin and how people view that, or the 315 or the Reliance on like the other ships?
I've worried about that too, because there's ships like that have come out that have just been made dead, like the Hoplite. The Cutlass Steel, like things like that. There's just so many ships that, like, if you hadn't sold those vehicles in a normal game, they never would have seen the light of day. And what I mean by that is, like, the way Star Citizen, as it's being developed, they're selling the ships. In a normal game, you know how when you edit a movie, or they say there's as much film on the editing floor as there is that makes it into the final film.
Yeah,
we don't have that luxury. Yeah.
And I imagine that part of that is the fact that it's open development, so we actually see the renditions of the different ships. In answer to your question, Space, so I wonder whether CIG always envisaged there'd be that massive variants of the ships, because if you'll remember, X, way back in the beginning, you'd buy a ship and the variants we saw were examples of what you could do with the upgrade passes.
The one that you and I always joke about is a really good example. They talked about the Hornet being able to mine.
So you could put mining lasers on a Hornet.
Yeah. See, so if they had that in mind the whole time, then that's good. And I'm glad that they can follow through on it.
You got to remember, you got to go back and you got to change the weapon, right? So it's not as if like I'm trying to think of let's say you've got an M2, you would or an Ironclad, you would have to have that gun stored somewhere in the cargo area. So therefore, you're actually giving up the space of another tank to have the versatility to be able to swap the weapons over for the other vehicles.
So it is balance.
So again, if you want versatility in your tanks, as an example, you have to give up one extra tank. That makes a lot of sense to me. Play a choice.
Your storage space, but if you go back to 2014, 2013, 20, those really early days, like when you looked at the ships, they had upgrade points.
Yeah.
So you'd actually and those points would determine what you could do. So back eventually got changed to hard points. So, and as time went on, they actually differentiated the different hard points as well. But that original design told you that they planned ships to be able to do a whole variety of things and do as much as possible.
I think
they wanted the ships to give you that variety, but
I think the biggest egregious thing is, like I mentioned earlier, was how marketing is now affecting design. That's always been a big no-no for me with games, and it tends to make things really bad. Because you're overriding design decisions based on what some marketing guys decided.
I'm most concerned with people just making sure that people don't get left with aging ships not getting maintained because there aren't enough people using that ship for CIG to feel it's important or something.
Well, again, you've got enough choice to upgrade out.
That I don't think that should be the solution. I don't think that CIG's solution should be, hey, we've left that ship behind so much, you should go buy this new one instead.
They will always come back and get
credit for that.
They'll all come back towards the end of release and get gold pass. Like I have no doubt.
As long as they're doing that.
As we move towards 1.0, there's going to be this massive push to come back and raise the quality of all the ships up, ready for release.
As long as they're doing that and post 1.0, they're supporting them, then introduce the new ships and make sure they have a space.
Well, John Crew's going to have a hell of a time in his hand when they're doing that. So I'm wondering if that's I'm wondering if that's what next year's going to be. So if they're trying to get 1.0 around about the same time, we don't know this for sure, but say they were trying to get it out at exactly the same time as Squadron, and we know that's kind of 2026. Well, think about it. That would be next year, would it not? Them trying to get everything polished, ready to go. I don't know if that's what the case is, but I guess we'll find out in time. we'll have to wait and see. Right, we're almost done. We've got the two, just the last two here left, the Storm and the Storm AA. Ironically, I thought the Storm was where it was going to be at, but it turned out it was the Storm AA that was where it was at. This just landed with a bit of thud because it's just an armored. It's like an armored APC that's bigger. As in, when I say that, it's almost like an armored Ursa, isn't it, Agrid? It's just weird.
Yeah.
Like it's not a tank. It's meant to be a light tank, but it doesn't even really injure other tanks or anything. It's really, really strange in the way that it works. It's just, I don't know. I would have
huge.
Yeah, I honestly thought when they said the Storm, and you know how you've got the laser beam weapon. Imagine if that was a laser beam, or imagine if it was a lightning gun, because that's what I envisioned. I thought it was going to be a lightning gun that went in and actually did distortion damage to the mortars, so they were disabled for a time. Because it talks about it running behind enemy lines to attack mortars, and that was what I envisioned. Right, I was completely wrong. Right.
Yep.
And my vision looks way cooler than what reality came out with. But maybe again, they just did that to the Nova. This is the thing that really needs it. This needs a different weapon on it that you can change over. So like a lightning gun or a laser beam, something like that would definitely elevate this to a level where I would actually consider wanting to use it in game. Right now, the only version that I've ever really run is this one, and it just feels amazing to fire all those missiles. But at the moment, we don't really have a way to target. So again, they both landed with a thud. And I'm not even going to get into the things where all the military people have carried on about how you enter via the front and all that type of stuff. I can get past all that with future logic and future tech, but it would never be designed that way because of the way our current armor works. You just have a solid thing in front of you, so you come from behind.
It's also been clearly artificially gated by its width.
Yes.
Like I think something that the Grey Cat MTC has made very clear that I'm sure many people have caught on to earlier is that they specifically try to hit certain widths with these vehicles so that they only fit in certain things. And this one is like, they could have made a solo strike tank that fits in smaller things, but they didn't.
There is no reason to take this over the Nova currently. It's not particularly much faster than the Nova, and it's just so underwhelming. Like again, when sizes at a premium, you're going to take your biggest thing. And I know it comes down to cost and all that out of the game, but at the moment, there's not really a massive in-game pricing difference in-game. It would have really benefited from being like an actual light tank and being a medium-sized vehicle. You are absolutely correct in that. I agree with that. And I think a lot of the military people, from my memory, agreed with that at the time. So, yeah.
I hope when they add a weapon to this, like they do with the Nova, they give us like a countermeasure dispenser that you could just fire like a screen of chaff or something. That I feel like that'd be a cool defense for base building when you just want to confuse bombers.
I think what you're kind of describing there with a lot of these ground vehicles is those different ammo types coming in that we know about as they come in, more different variety of missile types, different like the ballistic cannon on this, but also the Nova being on different shell types would be absolutely huge. So I think a lot of these will bear a lot more fruit as time goes on. But yeah, I'd like to see other variants as well. Like take those two things you did with the Scorpius and the Nova tank, and that put that into some of the vehicles that probably needed them. I wouldn't have picked the Nova tank. I would have picked that Storm. That thing needs it more than anything right now. It's in a really lackluster place, but yeah. All right. Well, that is everything for the sale today with was it Tumbril and Crusader? God, I'm tired.
Crusader and Tumbril.
Yeah, I'm having a Toes Gang. What's the Toes Gang? Tell us about the Toes. No.
Toes Gang, dude.
Yeah.
They keep the stream alive, man.
He's got a foot fetish.
Space and Honey have a really weird fetish. No.
They have a foot fetish.
He has a type.
No, Toes Gang knows why. Everybody who comes to the stream they know why what this is.
We know Toes.
Yeah, sure. We can start some serious rumors right now. Right.
A little wilder than that, Al.
Okay. Right.
Speaking of the stream, then Space, where can people find you on the interwebs?
I am live on Space Tomato Gaming. I will, but by the time, if you watch this when it releases, I'm live.
Yeah.
And if you search for Space Tomato on YouTube, you'll find any of our channels. We have one for regular kind of opinionated, sort of larger scale news videos. We have one for everyday news videos and podcasts, Space Tomato 2, and then we've got one for gameplay that's going on too. You can also find us streaming on Twitch, Space Tomato Gaming, or Mrs. Tomato. It's where we do our cooking stuff. And we got a Discord and an org and it's all the things. Space Tomato stuff. Just Google it. That's easier. Because you could have just said that.
Yeah, no, I could have done, but I like you to promote yourself. All right, with that then, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. And thank you to everyone that went the extra mile on Patreon at the end of the video. See, I could do cool stuff now. Anyway, right, with that then, he's been Space Tomato. He's been Algrid.
And if I get it right, he's been Execute, and we're out of here.
Yes, citizens.